Hello and welcome to the Indie Pop Girl, the podcast where you will find music chat, new releases, hidden gems and nostalgic deep dives. I am back with another episode, and this week I'm diving deep into Imaginal Disk, the extraordinary second album from Magdalena Bay, a glitchy, emotional, experimental synth-pop masterwork. From its dreamlike transitions to proggy breakdowns and theatrical flourishes, this is a record that builds a world and dares you to lose yourself in it. I'll take you through it track by track, sharing my favourite moments, observations, and why this might already be a pop classic. This episode will be fully dedicated to the record, so I won't be giving you an introduction to Magdalena Bay or how I discovered them here. So if you are interested in what they are all about, please head over to my Magdalena Bay introduction and live show recap, where I go into more detail in that episode. And I also discuss seeing them live for the very first time. I can't wait to discuss and take you through this wonderful record. So, are you feeling disconcerted? It's time to meet your brand new image. Imaginal Disk was released on the 23rd of August 2024 and is the second studio album for the duo. Just like their previous full-length album Mercurial World, Matt and Mika wrote and produced the album entirely, and again, Mika is on lead vocal duty. Imaginal Disk is presented as a loose concept album which is centred on the fictional character True. The videos for the singles further explore this theme and ties in with the stunning album artwork, which sees Mika playing the True character, looking up at some evil demon villain who is placing a compact disc into her forehead. I would say that the album artwork is already recognisable, as Magdalena Bay really have an eye for detail and their visual artistry. It serves as an extension to the songs, and I really appreciate the cohesiveness. And I tend to say this a lot, but I love it when you see artwork like a piece of art and you can see and feel the songs and the colours within the artwork. Magdalena Bay have talked about their influences and what they were listening to during the writing and creation of Imaginal Disk. Mika has discussed her Beatles phase, and that influenced some of the songs within the classical pop structure. Matt and Mika's influences range from bands like Radiohead, Pink Floyd and Electric Light Orchestra. It's important to note that Matt and Mika both played in a progressive rock band before Magdalena Bay was formed, and I would say this is key in the sonics of Imaginal Disk, and I will explain this in more detail later, but combining those sounds with other influences such as Fiona Apple, Bjork, St. Vincent, they really elevated the songwriting and diversity of the overall sound and production. And you could say that, yeah, all of the above sounds a bit messy and how the hell is that going to work? But just trust them. Matt and Mika just know how and when to sprinkle their magic and to keep you engaged and take you on a sonic journey. So if you have not heard this album before, it might be a lot to take in with the first listen, but the beauty of Magdalena Bay is that their music is like an onion. There are so many layers and things you don't pick up straight away. I didn't, but that's what makes it fun, that you can go back and find things with repeated listens. An Imaginal Disk is an album that requires your attention just to sit back and take all the sounds in. I love Mercurial World back in 2021 and just adore their synth-pop sound. Their production can be a bit chaotic and complex at times, but that is why I love them so much, because you just don't know what they're going to do next. Imaginal Disk sonically is elevated to the next level, and they explore synth pop, dance pop, hints of prog and rock, psychedelia, shoegaze, dream pop, and atmospheric electronica. I avoided all of the singles because I had a feeling this was going to be a proper, more experimental journey, and I wanted to experience it in full in one go. And I wanted to have that full immersive experience on headphones while I was listening to it for the first time. And that's what I did. As I have mentioned in previous episodes, I will not be playing clips of the songs. So if you are curious, then please support the artists I cover by streaming, downloading, or buying physical copies. Thank you. Track 1, She Looked Like Me. So we have a choppy intro that introduces a record, and the vocal melody of this pops up a few times over the course of the record. So you could say that this is probably the core song, the central song that kind of leads the entire record. There's some unexpected transitions within the song, and you just don't know what is coming next. There is a lot going on within this, and it might be a lot to take in on the first listen, but it just sets up the record perfectly. And I love how experimental this is for the opening track. They could have stripped it down a little bit or just give you a gentle introduction, but they just throw everything at the wall with this, which I just absolutely love. I love the glitchy, erratic electronics and then the climatic build up, and at the end it definitely sucks you into their weird, wonderful world of Imaginal Disk. Track 2, Killing Time. So we have a bit of a change of pace here. There's some really nice percussion. There's a prominent bass line with some synths, and I can hear a Rhodes in there. I am a sucker for a Rhodes and it works so well as this is quite dreamy and smooth. Mika's vocals are soft, and you can feel that something is building in the production during the second chorus. I just love how they switch things up and start to add layers within the production. The subtle acoustic guitar and then the electric guitar comes in, and then you were just hit with the wonderful outro. A bit of a chaotic spoken word, and the instrumentation becomes a bit heavier. There's some great drumming by Nick Villa on this, and this won't be the last time I mention him. Track 3, True Blue Interlude. This is one of my favourites, and it's so dreamy and ethereal, and there's just a really gorgeous texture to the overall sound, and it just sucks you in right from the start. There's a lovely piano riff, and the reverb on Mika's vocals in this is just heavenly. Her delivery is spoken word, and to me it just reminds me a little bit of ASMR. It's just so peaceful and calm. Mika has got such a relaxing voice, and I interpret this interlude like a dreamlike breather. It feels like you are floating in space. I think the intention here was to keep it on the short side to reflect the lyrics. It's not a full song, obviously, but to me, it's more like a memory of one. The production is just absolutely insane on this, and I will be talking quite a lot about the production of this record. It's just insane that Matt and Mika do this all by themselves. It's just a true masterclass of their talent, and yeah, their genius artistry, really. They really don't get enough credit, in my opinion, on the production side. You know, that they're not bland or, you know, or basic or anything. They really do give you that attention to detail, and they sprinkle so much flavor and spice into their music. And I think that's why I gravitate towards Magdalena Bay, because there's so much variety, and Imaginal Disk gives you variety. I absolutely love the transition into the next track. I just have to mention that the transitions on this record are just amazing. How you can just play it from start to finish. It's just wow. Track 4, Image. This song, we pick up the pace here, and what a banger. This song is right up my street. The sound, the production, the synths, the drums that go fucking wild after the first chorus. That synth line that comes in during the chorus is so nice, and seeing Mika play that part on her guitar when I saw them live recently was just amazing. This is perfect pop to me, and this is everything what I love about synth pop. I just love that the reverb is dialed up high. I am a sucker for reverb with synths that sound like this. The video just brings the song to life even more. It's quite out there. It's very Magdalena Bay. The sonic landscape and the visual artistry that mirror the core themes, and this song just gets better and better on repeated listens. Magdalena Bay, they just have this gift that keeps on giving, and I really don't know how they manage to write songs, especially songs like this, that never tire. That is true talent. I don't know how many times I have listened to this track, you know, on vinyl, on Spotify, in a playlist, whatever, but it always delivers. And like I said, I just had a blast hearing this live recently. That fuzzy bass that comes in during the last chorus on the outro is just chef's kiss. It's the only way that I can describe it. Their attention to detail, especially in this song, when I heard it for the first time, it just blew my mind. This song will go down as a pop classic without fail. How can it not? It will stand the test of time. Even in 30 years' time, people will be referencing Image as a groundbreaking pop song, and I really hope that pop will sound like this. I hope more artists will take risks and kind of expand their sound and just go for it, just be experimental, you know. It works for Magdalena Bay, and I just hope that other artists will see this and it will give them inspiration to add a bit of flavour into what they're doing. Track 5, Death and Romance. So this is led by piano chords, and if you know this song, you know that Nick Villa just crushes the drumming in this. The bass and the drums just complement each other, and when you get to the drums and the chorus, fucking hell, it just absolutely slaps. And for a pop song to go this hard, it's just amazing. I'll keep saying it, but I'm going to say it again. Magdalena Bay, they know what sounds good, and they aren't afraid to make their pop songs go hard with the instrumentation and include live instruments with their electronic production. They do use drum machines and drum programming, you know, as well, which also works. And obviously, depending on the song and what the sound, you know, what they're going for. But on this record, fucking hell, the time signatures of the drums and Nick Villa's technique, it's just mind-blowing. And if you have seen Nick Villa's snippets on the live tour on Instagram and TikTok, you know how good this guy is. And I am so glad that they had Nick to join them on the tour, because especially with this song and image, it really does elevate it in the live setting. They could have easily had it programmed, or had drum pads or synth pads or whatever, but to have a live drum kit for a electronic band, it is quite unheard of. I've only kind of seen it a few times, or like orchestral maneuvers in the dark. They're quite known for having a drummer in the live setting. And of course, Christian, who plays for Depeche Mode, if you're a fan of Depeche Mode, then you know that they use, a lot of live instrumentation as well. Magdalena Bay are in good company, and going forward, I really hope that they keep this going, because it really does suit them very, very well. I just love how it just complements everything that's going on in the song, and they never lose focus of the overall songwriting as well. You could say that there are parts that sound a little bit busy, or that could be stripped away, but they just know when to pull it back, and they just know when to just go for it and be chaotic. This in another person's hands could have been a bit of a disaster, but Mag Bay, yeah, they just know, and you just have to trust them, basically. The bridge is just so dreamy, with the wall of sound, with the synths that come in, and the bass with Mika's vocals, and then the drum fills. They just know how to progress a song to just build and give you more. The transition here into the next track is just so seamless and perfect. And on first listen, I was just losing my mind at this point, and just thinking about how good this would sound on vinyl. And the transition into the next track is just so perfect. Track 6, Fear, Sex. This has got another dreamy intro, but God, this just builds so satisfyingly. I adore the synths, and then that hard beat that comes in. It just sounds like it's from another world, and this track for me encapsulates the theme and the concept. And when I look at the artwork, I hear this track. I wish it was a little bit longer, but the outro, the synths, and then with the demon character laughing, oh, just fuck off. The production is just off the scale here. Like I said, I just don't know how Matt and Mika come up with this stuff. I would love to see them at work in the studio, working together, creating this world and these sounds and how they compose. It really is genius, and honestly, it makes me so excited for the future of pop if it continues to sound like this. Track 7, Vampire in the Corner. So we slow down things here a little bit, and this track is just perfect in the placement of the record, especially with the tracks that are coming up. So it's nice just to chill a little bit and hear a bit of dream pop. It's a love song, and Mika's vocals are just so heartfelt, and as the song slowly builds, you can really feel what she's singing. You can really feel the passion in a vocal performance. I love how they add in little sounds and the twinkly synths that come in during the second verse, and by the second chorus it really picks up. And then when Mika's vocals goes higher and she just soars, it is just gorgeous. It's an absolutely stunning song, which is proof that they can strip away some of the instrumental and some of the production, and they can still make it complex at the same time. I really don't know how they do it. Track 8, Watching TV. So I've always thought that the soft beat in the intro mimics flicking channels on a remote control, like a soft, irregular beat, like a button presses on a remote. And I interpret this song tying into the idea of passive consumption, bombarded by media and endless scrolling or flicking through, a bit like a mechanism for a distraction. It's like you are constantly searching for something but never settling, like a choice overload. You can hear the proggy influences coming in with this, and you know that this is going to build into a huge outro, and boy do they deliver with this. Again, Mika's vocals slowly build, and she knows when to hold back, and she knows when to just soar and belt something out. The lyrics are quite dark here, and I love the glitchy, stuttering beat that comes in, and I interpret that as maybe TV channel interference, like a malfunctioning signal or something. Again, the production is truly off the scale again on this track, and to be honest, I never even noticed that there were strings in the background of this song until recently, when I was preparing for this episode and I was listening to the album on headphones, and I was really taking in, all the sounds and everything that was going on. And this is what I was saying about Matt and Mika's attention to detail. It's just off the scale. Track 9, Tunnel Vision. So as I've already mentioned, the transitions on this record are mind-blowing, and this one is no exception. I would say that this song is the centerpiece of the record. You think that not much is going on in the verses, but it just slowly builds with the synth pop, and then the drums just explode. The live drums really elevate this track to another level, and I'm not going to describe the outro because my words really wouldn't do it justice. You need to hear it for yourself and be prepared to be blown away, because I was just speechless. I had no idea that Magdalena Bay could do something like what they do on the outro. What is truly mind-blowing is that the countdown from the image chorus is brought to life here. It's like a haunting refrain which is threaded between the two tracks. So the countdown starts within image, counting down the minutes toward the moment where tunnel vision fully breaks open. The experience I had on headphones for the first time is a moment I will never forget. And hearing this live and seeing Nick Villa just absolutely kill the drum kit, fucking hell. Moments and tracks like this is why music moves me so much and I get so passionate about it. A chaotic, proggy, heavy rock outro makes me emotional, and I really don't care if that sounds ridiculous, because when I watched two of my all-time favourite YouTubers, Connor and Kevin from Turning the Tables, when they reacted to Imaginal Disk, they felt it too. Tracks 10 and 11, Love is Everywhere and Feeling, disc inserted. So Love is Everywhere is laid back and groovy with a lovely bass line and guitar, and it gives me kind of 70s funk disco vibes. Mika's vocals are so dreamy with a shitloads of reverb, and you could say this one is a little bit more straightforward compared to some of the previous songs, but it's still complex in Magdalena Bay style. And I love that they used the theremin in the song, which makes me think of golf rap. If you know, you know. Love is Everywhere is a reworked version of the instrumental that Matt and Mika contributed to Running Out of Time by Lil Yachty and shared production credits. This song transitions into the next track, a short interlude, and this works together, which sets up the last few tracks on the album. The interlude uses the same melody as She Looked Like Me, which does return, but this is more orchestral and references Angel on a Satellite, which is coming up soon. Track 12, That's My Flaw. So this picks up the pace and introduces the live drums with the bass, and the lyrics are how they imagine what a party looks like, and this song sounds like a party. The la 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 hook will be in your head for days, I tell you. I love the breakdown in the bridge with the dreamy synths, which just build to that guitar solo, which is just everything. And I just love how they throw everything into the instrumental and the production. It's so catchy and experimental and fun. This song just makes me so happy and puts a smile on my face. It's my go-to song when I'm having a bad day, and it really lifts me up. Track 13, Cry For Me. God damn, this fucking song. Live drums, killer bass line, strings, synths, and a song that you've heard before, but you haven't. And then you start thinking of ABBA. And I could imagine golf rap doing something like this. I remember one of my other favourite YouTubers, John Denton, having an absolute blast reacting to this, and he described this song so eloquently. It's poppy, but it's got that dark undertone, which I dig. That breakdown with the evil laugh is back, and then that piano that comes in is so ABBA coded, and I am here for it. Just what a song. It's got so much happening, and the production is quite overwhelming, but in a good way. That buzzing synth that comes in before the outro over the strings is just genius. Matt and Mika are geniuses, and I love them so much for creating this song. It's over 5 minutes, but I never want it to end. It is so refreshing to hear songs at this length and not songs designed for TikTok. I love how they just let their songs expand and progress and breathe and just get better. And in an age where we're used to songs which don't even touch the 2 minute mark, to have an album as fleshed out as this, it's so refreshing. And yeah, I really respect Matt and Mika for doing this and for just trusting their own vision. Track 14, Angel on a Satellite. A complete change of pace, and this is one of my favourites. It's a dreamy pop ballad with a touch of baroque, and this is one of my favourite Mika vocal performances. Hearing this live just turned me into an emotional mess. It just moves me so much. There is something moving about the strings and the classical piano with the emotional delivery of the lyrics. Again, the attention to detail is so present here, as You hear a satellite sound within the production. It's just a gorgeous, touching song, and I wish this song existed in 2020 because it would have been included on our wedding playlist. If you've not heard anything from Magdalena Bay before, maybe give this as a try as a gentle introduction. I never noticed that in the intro includes a wind chime very briefly until now when I was listening to the album again in preparation of this episode. It's just a perfect song in my eyes, and any song that includes rain and wind sounds, well, you got me. Track 15, The Ballad of Matt and Mika. So we have another smooth transition, and this track is classic Magdalena Bay. They throw everything at the wall with this. Their trademark synth sounds, the weird fuzzy synth stabs, the production is quite busy, but this is kind of like, you know, the end of the album, and this definitely goes out on a bang. Mika uses the vocal melody line of "She Looked Like Me," so you could say we are going full circle as she sings "Killing Time" every day, and just little hints of the record, and just ties everything together really nicely. I interpret the song as a happy ending, but then when you get to the outro with the full orchestra coming in, it kind of ends on a slightly ominous note, which sounds a bit off. So I guess that is open to interpretation if there is a happy ending, but it still ends the record in a satisfying fashion. Because we're going, in my opinion, we are going full circle here. The track loops ideas, melodies, and feelings right back to where it started. I remember when I was sat on the sofa during release day last August, and after the record finished, I took out my earphones and just said to my husband, album of the year. And yes, Imaginal Disk is my top pick for 2024. And the album is still on regular rotation in our house, and I still love it nearly a year later. Imaginal Disk received widespread critical acclaim, and several publications included Imaginal Disk in their year-end best albums released in 2024. Death and Romance in particular received praise, and that ended up in a lot of year-end lists for Song of the Year. I watched a lot of reactors on YouTube, including two of my favourites who I've already mentioned, Turning the Tables and John Denton. I have to give both a shout out here because they really felt the music. You could tell that they were vibing and just enjoying everything that they were listening to on the record. Both reactions are a complete joy to watch. And I just have to mention that John, especially, he had no idea going into Imaginal Disk, but he got it. He just got it, and I hope you guys out there listening to this podcast who have not yet experienced this record will hopefully have some sort of connection to it. I guarantee that this record will be regarded as a pop classic, and it will stand the test of time because it's just that good. For an album to sound like this, with production so stellar and off the scale, and at the heart of it, it is just a pop record. But Magdalena Bay never lose focus on the songwriting and give you something more than just a synth-pop record. Playing with alternative rock, indie, funk, disco, with all the other genres that I mentioned earlier, you would think that sonically it would just sound like a mess with no coherent direction. but the record gives you variety and flavour and experimentation. But at the same time, it's still cohesive and the tracks all work in harmony. I've already seen Imaginal Disk pop up in lists alongside classics such as Depeche Mode's Violator, Vespertine by Björk, various work by Aphex Twin and Kraftwerk. It's already highly regarded in the electronic genre. And if you don't get this album, or if it's not your cup of tea, I understand. But I hope you can see how impressive Matt and Mika's songwriting is, and how talented they really are. I just want to note that Imaginal Disk was completely snubbed by the Grammys this year. It's possible that Matt and Mika didn't even submit it for eligibility, but we know how wrong the Grammys are and the insane decisions they make. And for the most part, it's just a popularity contest for big names and their own favourites that they show obvious bias towards. It's just so surprising that Imaginal Disk didn't even show up in the technical categories, such as for engineering or production. I just hope one day Matt and Mika will be rewarded for their hard work and talent. And I know it's not always about awards, but I believe Imaginal Disk will shine through its longevity and staying power. In another world, Imaginal Disk would be winning awards left and right. But even without them, its brilliance is undeniable. If you haven't already, go press play and let it rewire your pop brain. If you're into synth-pop, especially the kind that's rich with feeling and bursting with imagination and not afraid to be a little strange, then Imaginal Disk is more than just a recommendation, it's a must. Every second of this record feels intentional. It's the perfect length and fully cohesive, and somehow manages to be tightly constructed and emotionally unfiltered. I genuinely think it has no skips, and that's not something I say lightly. It's one of those rare albums that builds a whole world around you and then asks you to question your reflection inside it. There's theatricality, vulnerability, and a sense of digital collapse that feels completely of the moment, but also timeless in its own way. To me, it's already a pop classic, even though it's not even a year old. And I really do believe it'll be influential in the years to come. I can imagine artists pulling threads from this record, whether it's the glitchy textures, the bold emotional swings, or that playful but haunted take on what pop music can be. And I hope it shapes the future of pop music, because that future would be a lot more interesting with Magdalena Bay in it, making thoughtful, intelligent, experimental pop, combined with their colourful visuals and outfits, artwork and theatrical live performance. Magdalena Bay are truly a one-of-a-kind and so unique. I am so glad that I have discovered them, because they have quickly become one of my all-time favourite artists. Thanks for tuning in to another episode, and I hope you've enjoyed my review of Imaginal Disk. Please follow me on Instagram at the Indie Pop Girl, where I'll be creating more content and mini reviews. I'm also lurking on AOTY and Reddit, so come say hello and let's talk about the music that moves us so much. I would be grateful if you could follow, like, and share my podcast to help it grow, and I would love to connect with more music lovers out there. I've also created a public Spotify playlist and added some of my favourite tracks from the artists that I've already covered, and as the episodes grow, I'll be adding more. So if you are curious with any of the artists and albums that I have covered, please give it a listen, and who knows, you might find a new discovery. I will be back on Friday with another episode in my Throwback Friday series. and I'll be discussing a forgotten record from a certain Scottish band from 1998, and I will be here to give it some proper love and the attention it deserves. Until then, I'm Rachel, the indie pop girl. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next time.